Good to see you all. I am Dr. Sam Graber, and I have carved out a niche for myself that may be unfamiliar to many of you. I am a menopause coach for women in leadership, and I also do consulting for the companies that employ them. Menopause is something that's a great mystery to many of us, women included. And so today I'm going to explain just a little bit more about what I do, sort of how I got to this point. So my express purpose for honing in on this niche is to really help women scale their wellness while they're helping scale the businesses that they help lead. Because that's an important way that we can really be working together with our employment, with our employees. So I used to work solely one-on-one in the leadership development and wellness arenas, but I decided that since they can only, are be able to see me okay? Since I can only help so many people in that space, I really wanted to expand my impact. I'm all about the impact. So to bridge the impact gap, I have expanded my offerings to a free resource center housed online, and then also a group coaching. Was it up my nose? Okay. I mean, that's not really what I want recorded. I'm pretty sure we're clear up there. All right. So this model is offered in a B2B and a B2C model. So everything's online, it's very accessible. The companies can expense it either through their corporate wellness or through their leadership development. And then some individuals that are maybe a 1099 or that are independent contractors can also expense it. So there's a great need for this offering because it's a time when women are going through many changes that might be unfamiliar to them, but it also affects their relationships, their businesses, their outlook on life, and some flow right through it, easy peasy, no problem. Others, it really is a time of great tumultuousness. They really don't know what's occurring. They've got all these issues going on with work, and it can kind of spiral out of control when they don't have the support they need. And 1 in 5 working women at this moment is in perimenopause, one included. And all throughout that time, she may be living with a fear of wondering if she is going to have to close her business or quit her job because she's having a really difficult go at it. This mental stress could be alleviated very simply and very affordably by plugging into our ecosystem. So in this ecosystem, they're discreetly provided, proven, I'm a science nerd, always will be. So everything I do is science-based, and I have a great network of people that work with me. But they're discreetly provided these proven strategies in mindfulness, real food nutrition. I don't do a lot of supplements because I think real food is where it's at. Exercise, gentle to vigorous, depending on the person, and then self-development. And then each of these are specific to women. So I help the companies that employ these women provide that wraparound service that people need to be more productive. And in a moment, I'll kind of go through some of those numbers. But raise of hands here. Who thinks that work-life balance is important? Right? Yes, all of us. Now, which one of you works for a company that has a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy that names menopause by name? Yeah, okay, good. So see, a lot of opportunity. And that's the answer I always get. It's like, oh, we didn't even think of that. Right. But this is such a great opportunity to really, truly, genuinely support the women in your workforce, because as we all know, a lot of women are out in that workforce, and we are aging in place, meaning aging in our work environments, and we want to be loyal. We want to be there. Women, when they get into a company and they are committed, they are committed. And this is a workforce that is really unparalleled in many cases. So whether a company of 1 or a company of 100,000 plus, if you employ women, this is an opportunity to not only support them, but to champion for them. So I'm going to go through just a couple more things. Like I focus here because half of our workforce is women. It's actually 47%, but we'll just round it up a little bit. So in that number, that is that's that huge opportunity right there. And one of the issues that's going on, it's really no surprise that there is no menopause, detailed out, because we're still fighting for family leave for all genders, IVF support, adoption leave. When someone brings in a new baby or a new child into their family, it'd be wonderful to have a little time to, sit there and get to know that child and them to know the family. We really are fighting for all these family related needs. And what happens is women, they take the brunt of all this, and then they're trying to, work through their work as well. We give a lot of lip service to work-life balance, and I know we all feel that way, but we really don't have many avenues through which to change that and correct it. So it's evidenced everywhere. We value automaton over human. We value the exactingness of the masculine over that flexibility of what it is to be in one's feminine flow. And men and women have access to both of those powers. So it hasn't been until recently that we started talking about that hormonal elephant in the room that is perimenopause. It's a term I often get the kind of blank stare when I bring it up, and I love to educate. That's part of the whole process of really helping people through this and helping bridge the gap between the employer and the employee. When they're able to speak on similar terms, it becomes less of that unspoken, just, that issue that people have that no one's really speaking about, like many things we have in this country at this time. But I'm one of those people that I believe in, let's talk about the things we don't talk about. Let's get it out there and really make it less of an issue. So one thing that I often share about perimenopause, it's that phase before a woman hits her menopause. Menopause is an event. Perimenopause is a journey. And sometimes it's a little rocky, sometimes it's rather smooth, but all the time, the better we understand it, the better we can go through it. So it's a really long time for some it's a 5 to 10 year period on average. Many women will start perimenopause in their late 30s. So that's a long time frame that I could be, helping people out and better be prepared, which is always the key. So one of the things is people think, oh no, okay, that's going to be like a really big issue. Not really. Most of the time, women just need a little flexibility. They just need a little give in that routine, that schedule. And it's something that they are very, very capable of navigating for themselves. I always say this is a grown woman, usually I say another word, a grown woman who's dealing with grown woman issues, and she just needs a moment. Sometimes that's all she needs. She needs permission to unplug for just a moment. And that's not only for her health, but it's for her mental well-being. And mental health has been a huge issue for us forever, but we're finally just, again, talking about that. This is a way that women can plug into themselves a little bit better and be able to provide more of the services that they're hired for. All right, so one of the things I want to ask you guys about, so here's where I really need your feedback. It's in the close and the call to action. So depending on the venue I'm in, if it's, in person or if it's just online, there's going to be some differences. But here's what I'm working with right now. So this is where I would love your feedback. How much talent, experience, leadership, and company wisdom are you hemorrhaging when women are faced with the lose-lose proposition of having to leave their job because of these issues? So translate that into dollars. How much is this costing your company as a result? So I am here to help you bridge the resource gap for women in your organization who want a holistic approach to menopause. I provide companies of 1 to companies of 100,000 plus with online resources and small group coaching. In turn, lending to organizations and assist, if you will, in cementing their position as an ally so they can retain the talent, experience, leadership, and collective wisdom of the women in their workplace. You've invested heavily in the hiring, the training, and the leadership development of the women in your workforce. Do you really want to lose them at this time when they are at the highest of their productivity level? Of course you don't. So the key here is to invest in them. And you can do that through my organization. And then that's kind of where I go. And then I usually, read the room. Oftentimes it's visiting with someone one-on-one, which is always my preference. And then I try to educate a little bit more. And, being that this is a presentation on, the business side, I didn't do as heavy on the presentation, but a lot of people just are not aware of what that is going on. And women are in fear, again, of having to close their own business. I mean, can you imagine that pressure? And then the pressure of trying to perform at a level that they were even a year ago. And perimenopause is it's like unpredictable. meaning one day, no problem. The next day, you don't even remember your own name. And it's just one of those things. And we shouldn't have to really make it a big thing. If we could just sort of have this functioning in the background and have it be a wonderful understanding amongst people that she's just having a human moment, it'd be really great. I would love some feedback, what you guys think about anything I've talked about, where I can shore up a little.
I appreciate the awareness, because even as a woman, I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't know a lot about it, and maybe my mom's not crazy.
And that's the thing, I mean, we won't talk about it because we think, oh my God, I'm going crazy. It's finally happened. I knew it was coming,
Right.
but it's like,
Even with myself.
yes.
Yeah, I never, I need to be educated more on that, so I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
You're
Sure.
welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. I talk about,
I will.
yeah, Dr. Sam Graber.
Yes.
So when you gave your statement, I'm not exactly sure what your ask is. However, if you did something like giving examples of, can you say yes to, do you know somebody who's experienced this, or the onset of this, and this?
Great.
That would be a reason to have them speak to me or go to the website, or
Okay.
because then you're offering them assistance because they might be embarrassed to not want to say anything yet. And then then all the rest of that would be on your site. So
I love that. Yes, perfect. I will. Thank you. This is recorded, right, Jim?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, you're recorded.
So back to the notion of the closing, I guess, I know it's very difficult to do, that within a brief time slot in 1 week ups, but just number one, I'm with her, pretty ignorant about this, okay? But it does seem like kind of teasing out some more examples of, like you said, forget your own name. Okay, that's tangible. I didn't hear a whole lot of that sort of, and here are some things, some words, symptoms, whatever you want to call them. Because I think you'll always have to focus on the pain points, right? Because the buyer in that persona, that role play, the buyer needs to get a firm sense of there's a need, there's a pain, maybe they're not fully aware of, especially from an employer wellness program.
Right.
I think for them, probably one thing I'd say is you mentioned how many people's, diversity program include reference to this? Very few probably. But in the wellness programs, corporate wellness, I wonder how many of them identify this, and even more so gather metrics that might reinforce pain in a way that they could connect.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, I appreciate that. I haven't found much in the way of numbers with menopause specifically. I see it more with pregnancy. And then that's about it. But thank you. Yeah, great. I saw something.
I think you just answered my question. So like in your closing statement, you're talking, because it's kind of a pitch, right? How many people have you lost due to this? And so odds are the business can't quantify it because it's not something that's been on their radar, right? And so naturally after that, because you're trying to express the value. And so the cost value ratio, what is that? And if I'm a business, a large business, and I have no basis for how many women I've lost in the last, 10 years between this age bracket,
Yes.
then I'm not going to see any value in it. So
Got it.
I think that matters to some degree, because everything else is, while it's still a legitimate thing, where it's really a wellness emotional pitch. This is what's going on. How can we help them? But still, you've got to quantify that in order for me to give you money for it. That's my view.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I definitely, and that's where I'm having an issue is finding some of those numbers teased out. But I do see that between the ages of 45 and 55, there is a heightened women leading the workforce.
So it's a dog, or
Yeah.
you don't have a basis for why that is.
Yeah, so it's in reference, or it's referred, or it's, it's the idea of that because that's the most common time, but it's not as easy to tease out. But I need to
So you
dig in
could
more.
easily, could easily say that, statistically in this age bracket, women leave the workforce, potentially they could be because of this. So you could loop them together in that way without, letting them kind of play on that conclusion.
Yeah, very good point. And then I also thought maybe finding what it costs to hire and develop a leader of a certain level in your company, you've got, 100,000+ invested in that person. If they just leave, then you got to go try to rehire. Or if their productivity is going down because they're not getting the support they need. And the support I do, again, it's real food, it's some exercise, it's mindfulness work. It's not expensive. You're eating. There's no added expense. It's just an education and a support. So I appreciate hearing that. Thank you. Yes.
Have you gone into any organizations and done like an anonymous survey to just assess the need for it? To kind of put like those hard quantifiable numbers? Because I agree with you have to have proven demand, because I get, it costs to hire, the training, you have that loss of productivity. But it's hard without saying, okay, people are definitively likely or statistically more likely to leave because of these prevailing factors.
That's a great point. There's a few companies here, and maybe if anyone knows one that would be willing to let me come in and do an assessment, just a discrete assessment on some of those numbers, talk with their human resources. I would appreciate that. Yeah.
And can I just clarify, is there a platform element to what you do? Or is it, okay, so there is a technology kind of underlying?
Yes, it's all online. I use the Mighty Networks community, and then I have courses through that. As they have 24/7 availability or access to it. And then we do a weekly coaching. Depending if it's like a specific company, I'll do it at a time that's convenient for that company. If we have a certain number. Yeah, Lloyd.
Yeah, so two things. So when you got started, I didn't get your relationship to the problem you're solving, like the backstory behind it.
Okay.
And then the second thing was like your transition from doing one-on-one to multiple people using your service in contact with doing that.
Okay, yeah. So originally I started one-on-one. I'm a retired chiropractor. So that's my background. I've always been in holistic health. I've always been very fitness minded, very, very nutrition, whole food minded. So over time, I just started transitioned into the one-on-one model. And I absolutely love it because we get to dial in and make big changes. But I realized very shortly, number one, it's not incredibly scalable. And I can't have the impact that I really want to have in the world. So I decided that a lot of the stuff I do one-on-one can be handled on a platform where they can access that 24/7, do the work, do the journaling, figure out what's going on, and then we can do problem solving in the coaching aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, so but I guess my second part of that question was more related to how did you come up with the business model
Got it.
for that being able to scale out?
Yeah, so the business model is based on a lot of what's going on in the coaching space. I have this expertise and then this ability to coach and this ability to help bring the best out of people and help them tap into what they really want. And I know that the very bottom line, the foundation of that is what you eat, how you nourish your brain, how you nourish your thoughts. So I feel that very strongly that if people can have this beautiful foundation of holistic kind of approach to life as their baseline, then they can build anything that they see they need. Plus, I've met a lot of people who leave business or don't get into a business because they're just not healthy. Body, mind, spirit, there's something really missing. So we go in and help heal the cells. Yes, please.
I was gonna ask, so are there because there's so much focus on mental health and different things like that, and I know there's always been like human resource departments and different things in companies. Sort of like in school, we have a guidance counselor. Is there a position or something like that in most corporations that is held? Because maybe like that can be a part of the conversations that are had with employers, like when you bring them in, like what's the problem, what's going on, so that because if it never comes up, it's not something personally that I'm going to go to my boss and be like, I don't know what I'm for. But if they happen to make it a comfortable situation for you to have that conversation, just kind of like, maybe making it inclusive in something that's already there and making it a part of their program the same way we're trying to, mimic what they do in Canada for, expecting mothers and, and all of that, how they give them, woman gets a year off, dad gets 6 months off, like we don't have that here. But it's like, we're trying to kind of move towards those things in some aspects. So like maybe bringing that awareness. I just think people just have no idea. And they would probably feel like it's a little invasive to ask that question. Yeah. To assume, is when you don't want somebody cursing out. It's like, what? I'm going through what?
Yeah.
It's like, no, but just making it a common thing,
Sure. Yeah, then I think that's a great point because that helps bridge that gap between the employer and the employee. Plus, I think it will help people know that when they go to work for you, that they're working for a company that truly does value their mental,
Yes.
physical, and physical well-being.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. One more, wait, one more. Yes.
Yeah, so like, does your business model allow you to predict the growth of the company?
Oh, mine,
That's a word.
yeah, oh, yeah, just based on, you know, the number of people that would join the platform, is that what you mean, like my.
You know, funnel to get people in and, yeah.
Yeah, and it's again, one-on-one, or it's for the company. Yeah, what you got?
So I was just curious, like, I'm assuming the part of the reason we don't talk about it is a little bit of a stigma, a little bit of an uncomfortable subject. I'm just curious, I'm thinking back through our history of 100 presentations.
Mhm.
And then also, like, I had a business involved in underwear startup, and it's just a little
I mean.
weird and awkward to talk about. Are you finding it, you're so comfortable and everything, but are you finding that when you go out and approach your clients, are they like backing away, or are they embracing, or? how do you find it?
The way, usually people come to me and they're, you know, it's like a, you know, kind of dealing with this and they don't really know what's going on. And so that just is a natural thing, but coming into the corporate space and talking with people about, again, something they don't really know. But I think when I have an opportunity to really educate them, you know, I take a few minutes to just explain what's going on, some of the changes happening in estrogen and progesterone, a lot of nerdy stuff, but I make it pretty understandable. And then it's like that thing goes, that little light goes off, or that ding that, oh, okay, it's just biology. I mean, it literally is biology. This is built in. This is nothing, you've not done anything wrong. There's not anything broken. Your wife's not crazy. You might be making her crazy, but aside from that, there are very natural things going on. But when we're super stressed, it makes that what could be just an easy going, it makes it off the charts wonky. And then if our insulin is off balance, I won't get too far into that, but if our nutrition and our metabolism is off balance, it makes it even worse. So if you can get some of those baseline things all just firing on all cylinders, it's so much better. And their productivity, and they know you've invested in them, that's priceless. I mean, priceless.
Just a suggestion, whatever you just said, that last 30 seconds, start with that.
Okay.
Because now I
It's
wanted
important,
it
so
to
I
be.
will get it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, actually, I had no idea I was late.
Yeah.
And now.
I did
like,
notice, and I made.
You're talking about, you're talking about, you know, low blood sugar, anger, and coupled with, you know, anyway, the other part that you probably were talking about that I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but yeah, I think I see where you're coming
Yeah,
from.
with all the biology. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, could you tell us a little more about some of the successes you have already? Just with dealing with some of your clients?
Sure. Yeah, and the successes are what, and I know we've got another person who's coming in, so I don't, you guys tell me.
We have
give me a
a
little-
little, keep going.
Give me the hook. Okay. Yeah, so successes, the key here is women, when they are firing on all cylinders. I've worked with women who, I mean, from some pretty gnarly situations, you know, suicidal. Bodies are very, very unhealthy, and someone introduces and you know, they connect. And over time, in a one-on-one model, it's usually going to start with 6 months as our initial. And then that way we start building their health. We start building their values, their core values, what their worth is. Many times, I'm a trauma-informed doc, always have been. What that means is I work with people who have had trauma. Anyone breathing right here, right now has some sort of trauma. That trauma can be something that we take with us forever, and it really defines the way we live. So by being able to help them understand a little more about what's gone on in the past, does not need to be carried along with them to the present, and then start building towards a future that they really, really want to live. That's the key point. And there's a pretty predictable setting to it, but by having an experienced coach and mentor, it helps us kind of individualize it.
One thing I would just want to say to the room, I definitely want to have another meeting with you now. Just to brainstorm, but one of the things that somebody brought up was the possibility of doing an assessment in a business. And I cannot imagine that Student Community Institute would not be interested in allowing you access to some sort of way to do this sort of assessment. They're into the big reset, wellness, all that stuff. I don't know who the direct person is. I'm sure I could find them if I need to, but somebody in this room knows who you need to talk to about that. So I'm saying it out loud, so maybe they'll come and talk to you.
Thank you. Okay.
And Dr. Gray, the last question.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
What does your daily personal approach look like for yourself?
For
Sure,
myself,
yeah.
lots of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it is all about food, and my friends all think I'm crazy, which I am a little crazy in a really good way, but everything is based on what you eat, keeping your blood sugar balanced, but more important than that, it's about insulin. I eat real food. I eat things that are as close to growing the way that God intended them, the way they're designed, plants that grow above the ground, not many of the starches, lots of hydration, mindfulness is really important to me, being able to tap into that place of calm. Understanding myself. I did an Enneagram assessment on myself early on a couple of years ago, and that helped me understand what's going on up here, what makes me tick, what makes me a ticking time bomb. I go towards the things that makes me tick, and I run from the things that make me a ticking time bomb. And then doing fulfilling work, I found that by switching to something that just truly lights me up, I'm on fun of it. Yeah.
And
One more.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dr. Graves, the last question we have is what can the community do for you?
This is awesome. And I think if you start thinking about things or run into women that are struggling and might be confiding in you, or if you're in that 30-ish phase, or you've got people in your family that are in that phase, this is the time to really start working towards that transition and being beefed up and ready to roll. If you know people in HR or that do corporate wellness, or other coaches who are in the business coaching space, who might want to joint venture with me in this space, this is incredibly wonderful parallel, because the better, the more well your clients are, the better results they're going to get in your programs. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for coming here. And I love how thank you, everyone out there.
Today really a special day. This is our 100th Ways That You Cut presentation. All right, Dr. Graves,